Outpost Solace. Chapter 2. The Call Beneath the Ice. The suit was stiff, its joints reluctant to bend as I forced each limb into place. The seals hissed faintly as I fastened them, the sound almost lost in the empty hum of the control room. It had been weeks since I'd ventured beyond the confines of Outpost Solace, weeks spent avoiding the suffocating silence of the frozen wasteland outside. Yet today, the rig demanded my attention, its erratic readings a stubborn beacon that left me no choice. I stood before the airlock, my breath fogging the faceplate of the helmet. Beyond the frosted glass lay the desolation of Callisto's surface, a canvas of unbroken ice stretched under a sky that seemed to reach forever. There was no comfort in the thought. If anything, the unchanging landscape mocked my own stasis, a reflection of how time refused to move in this god-forsaken place. The airlock cycled slowly. Each metallic groan was a reminder of the outpost's decay. I stepped out into the brittle cold, the landscape biting at me even through the layers of the suit. The sky was a muted grey, the faint light of Jupiter a pale smear on the horizon. My boots crunched against the ice as I trudged toward the drilling rig, its dark silhouette looming like a relic of some forgotten era. As I moved closer, the itching intensified. It crawled along my cheek with a vengeance, a deep, burrowing sensation that made my stomach twist. I paused to adjust my glove, pressing it firmly against my helmet in a vain attempt to find relief. It was no use. The itch seemed to pulse in time with my steps, as though the rig itself was calling to it, or through it. The rig stood in defiance of the landscape, its jagged frame encrusted with layers of frost. Steam hissed sporadically from its joints, an exhalation of mechanical exhaustion that mirrored my own. I approached the control panel. Its surface was slick with ice, and I wiped it clean with a gloved hand. The readings were as chaotic as they'd been in the control room. Spikes in pressure, erratic energy surges, depths that didn't align with known geography. It was as though the ice itself were alive, shifting beneath the drill. As I worked to recalibrate the sensors, my mind wandered to Thaddeus. His logs had been sparse, written in the erratic scrawl of a man unraveling. He'd described strange sensations near the rig, fleeting whispers he claimed to hear in the wind. I'd dismissed them as the delusions of isolation. But now, with the itch burning against my skin, I wasn't so sure. Thaddeus had been found in the control room, his shattered body sprawled grotesquely across the communications console. The official reports described it as a tragic accident, though no one could explain the condition of his remains or the peculiar symbols scratched into the console surface. Still, his presence lingered here at the rig. His final logs detailed strange sensations and whispers he claimed to hear when inspecting the drill. The replacement, his name lost to the bureaucracy of distant command, had fared no better. He'd lasted barely 2 weeks before wandering into the white expanse, leaving behind only a garbled transmission. The logs described him pacing near the rig, mumbling about voices he couldn't place. They'd searched for him for days. The outcome had been inevitable. Nothing came back from Callisto's depths. I shivered, the movement barely perceptible beneath the bulk of the suit. The itch had become unbearable now, a searing claw that burrowed deeper with each passing moment. I slammed a fist against the rig's console, the force sending a dull vibration through my arm. "What is this place?" I muttered, the sound muffled by the suit. "What are you hiding?" The radio crackled faintly in my helmet, static blooming like an unwanted thought. I froze, my gloved fingers hovering over the controls. For a moment I thought I'd imagined it, a flicker of sound in the endless silence. Then it came again, faint and rhythmic, a pattern that defied the chaos. It wasn't a voice, not exactly, but it carried an intent I couldn't ignore. I scanned the horizon instinctively, though I knew there was nothing out there. The endless ice reflected my unease, the grey light casting long, distorted shadows. The rig groaned as the drill shifted slightly, a sound that felt uncomfortably alive. The itch surged, a fiery wave that left me gasping. I staggered back, clutching at my helmet, as if the gesture could shield me from whatever this was. The console beeped sharply, drawing my attention back to the readouts. Depth readings spiked wildly, followed by a burst of energy that momentarily overloaded the sensors. The numbers blinked erratically, as though they were trying to tell me something. Beneath the ice, something was moving. My hand trembled as I reached for the console, trying to stabilize the equipment. The drill's vibrations intensified, resonating through the rig and into the frozen ground beneath my feet. It was an alien rhythm, a pulse that seemed to echo in my chest, syncing with the itch until I could no longer tell where one ended and the other began. I backed away slowly. My boots slipped against the slick surface. The rig loomed above me, its dark frame a jagged wound against the monotony of the sky. I thought of Thaddeus again, of the replacement, of their ends. My pulse quickened as the radio emitted another faint crackle, a sound so fleeting it felt like a hallucination. Forcing myself to turn, I began the trek back to the outpost. Each step felt heavier. The itch clawed at me with renewed fury. The silence seemed to deepen with every crunch of ice beneath my boots. A weight pressed against me from all sides. I didn't look back at the rig. I couldn't. The thought of what lay beneath the ice, waiting, was too much to bear. When the outpost's frosted bulk came into view, I quickened my pace, eager for the illusion of safety its walls provided. But as I stepped into the airlock and the door sealed behind me, I knew the feeling wouldn't last. The cold followed me in. The itch lingered, though it eased slightly as I moved farther from the rig. It was as if the source of its torment lay buried with the anomaly beneath the ice, its grip on my mind loosening only with distance. I struggled out of the thermal suit. The stiffness in my limbs made the process feel like shedding a second skin. The itch burned fiercely as the helmet came off, my cheek now raw and sensitive to the recycled air of the outpost. The faint relief from the rig's oppressive influence was small consolation. The irritation still pulsed beneath the surface of my skin, a quiet but relentless reminder of its presence. Exhaustion overtook me as I moved toward my quarters. Each step was labored, as if the weight of the rig's mystery had followed me back, clinging to my very bones. When I finally collapsed onto the cot, the room swayed faintly in my peripheral vision. My body drained from the effort of enduring the cold and the maddening sensations that came with it. I closed my eyes, but the itch and the whispers of the rig lingered in my mind, pulling at the edges of sleep, ensuring no true peace would come.